Episode number 29. Welcome back. This is the Expected Returns Podcast. My name is Stephen Lutman. I'm a real estate investor and agent here in the capital region of New York State. Lots of fun topics I have lined up for us today. However, before we jump in, one quick question for you. Are you a subscriber to the newsletter? I've sent out probably 50 editions so far. I can truthfully say the one that went out last week, not only is it the best, but it's also going to be the one that's going to impact your net worth the most, save you some money. So if you're not a subscriber, sjlincoln.com/join. That's where you can sign up 100% free. There's no obligation. There's no spam. Every couple weeks you get a notification from me. sjlincoln.com/join. Become a member of the newsletter. That's it for the intro. Let's get into the episode. Where I'd like to start today is with a conversation centered around problem solving. Now, a few weeks ago, I had to go to the doctor's office for over a month. I just had this really powerful cough. I couldn't shake it. The type of thing keeps you up at night. I was on cough drops, NyQuil, Robitussin. Nothing was working. I'm all doped up, still feeling terrible. I'm not a big doctor guy, but I go in to see him, and sure enough, the first thing he says to me is, "Well, Steve, it's great to see you. You haven't been in since 2019. We weren't sure if you were still alive or not, but after that, he bounces a few questions off of me, trying to nail down exactly what I've been experiencing, and ultimately ends up prescribing a cough suppressant and allergy meds. And I had to tell him, listen, I've never had allergies my entire life. I really don't think that's what it is. And he says, well, give it a shot. It should help with the cough. I end up leaving this guy's office, not with something designed to fix my cough, but to mask it. And that brings me to a recent proposal put forward by the National Association of Realtors, arguing that in order to increase the inventory of homes available for sale, we need to implement a tax credit for home sellers. What's the backstory here? Well, over the past 18 months, the dramatic run-up in interest rates has created a market dynamic where it's financially punitive to sell your house. And this isn't necessarily a like-kind exchange. So we're not talking about you sell your 3,000 square foot colonial in one town to go buy something similar in another. Even if you wanted to downsize, you want a smaller property. In most markets, it's actually going to be cost prohibitive for you to do so because the cost of financing is so significantly higher today than it was when you bought your house 5, 10, 15 years ago. What does this mean? Nobody's selling their property. If you look here in the capital region, go back to October of 2019, there were 6,000 available properties for sale. Fast forward to October of 2023, that number is down to 2,000 properties, meaning over the past 4 years, the amount of inventory of homes for sale has fallen 66%. Now, NAR's proposal is that we want to financially incentivize people to sell their houses. So to do that, as long as you sell your house to someone that's going to own or occupy it. So we're not talking, don't be selling it to an investor, but someone who's actually going to live there. Come tax time, you're going to be issued a tax credit. Now, short term, perhaps this might push a few families that are on the edge thinking about selling it. Maybe they do it. But this is going to be very similar to spraying Febreze on your couch or issuing someone a cough suppressant when they have a significant cough. It's just masking the issue. We're not fixing anything. What makes this idea especially bad is that it increases income inequality. So what we're saying is, hey, you're a home seller and you've lived there for 5 years, 10 years. You've experienced a significant increase in the amount of equity in your property because not only have you been paying down your mortgage, but home values have increased double digits even within the past couple years. So not only are you more wealthy because you've owned your home, but on top of that, now we're going to give you a tax credit, meaning you're going to be paying less taxes at tax time. So we're robbing from the programs that need it the most for the lower income people. We're saying we're going to underfund those and instead give a tax credit to essentially either the rich or the moderately rich, depending on where your neighborhood is. You've either experienced tens of thousands of dollars of equity growth, possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we're saying that's not enough. We're going to give you a tax credit on top of that. That feels especially icky. Now, we want to come up with a better solution other than just complaining. So, how can we better fix an issue of there not being enough listings instead of just masking the problem? In order to do this, we need more listings, but we don't just need more listings, we need more properties. So, what we want to be doing, a better use of our tax dollars, is to incentivize builders. We're going to offer tax incentives to builders, not to property sellers, because not only are we increasing the inventory, so we're going to be giving people more options of where they can live, but we're going to be simultaneously pushing down prices because we're increasing the supply. More supply is going to put downward pressure on prices, but also we're going to be creating jobs on top of that. And when there's more jobs, because people are going to be building, we need construction jobs. What do people who have jobs do? Well, they pay taxes. So we're going to be recouping a lot of our investment through additional tax revenue. We're going to be increasing not only the number of homes available for sale, but the entire pool as a whole. We want to be treating the cause here and not the symptom, and doing so in a financially responsible way. Next, we're going to pivot to a pretty horrible take from the folks over at the New York Times. The article titled "A 30-Year Trap, the Problem with America's Weird Mortgages." I'm going to quote briefly here from the piece. "Only the United States has such an extreme system of winners and losers, in which new buyers face borrowing costs of 7.5% or more, while 2/3 of existing mortgage holders pay less than 4%, end quote. The crux of the author's argument, and this piece was written by Ben Castleman, who formerly worked at the Wall Street Journal and 538, so I would expect better out of Ben, but his crux of his argument is that in countries where it's more customary to have shorter duration mortgage loans, it actually levels the playing field, because properly timing the interest rate market is less important once when you're consistently having to do it every 5 years, every 7 years. And in some respects, a 30-year mortgage is actually contributing to wealth inequality. Barf. Let's talk about stability for a moment. With a 30-year mortgage, there is zero ambiguity. You know whether it's payment number 1 or payment number 360. You know to the penny what your financing cost is going to be on your home. Now flip the script. You have a 5-year mortgage, and year 5 rolls around and rates happen to be higher than they were back when you initially took out the mortgage. You can no longer afford to refinance the property. Uprooting your family is expensive not only from a financial standpoint, but factor in the emotional cost of that as well. Kids changing school districts. Parents now have to find a job closer to where they now can afford to live. This is a disaster. And I want you to think about, in this scenario, who holds all of the power? It's the banks. We don't care about banks making money on this show. This is the people, consumers. How do we succeed? The power of a 30-year mortgage. There's no more significant options contract in financial markets than the 30-year mortgage. If rates go up, who cares? You're locked in. If rates happen to come down, you can always explore refinancing the property. Yes, people who bought their properties 3 years ago are in a financially better position than buyers today. But the bifurcation isn't a sign that the financing market is fundamentally broken. The run-up in rates we've seen over the past 18 months, 2 years, has been an outlier historically in terms of velocity. Historically, interest rates ebb and flow in gradual stages. So-called winners and losers are less easy to identify. And for the piece to reference other countries, like they're somehow doing it better than we are. Well, let's take a look at the rates of homeownership in some of these other countries. So we have places like Canada, which is actually, in terms of homeowner ratio, the ratio of owner-occupied housing units versus the total pool. So how likely are you to become a homeowner? In Canada is actually on par with the United States. Take a look at countries like Sweden, France, United Kingdom, Germany, Denmark. Guess what? United States, we beat them all. The 30-year mortgage is a powerful tool. Let's not be so excited to get rid of it. Next up, a quick word from today's show sponsor, S.J. Lincoln Realty, helping home buyers and sellers throughout the capital region. I've been a real estate investor since 2012 and operate the office here as the licensed broker. If you or somebody that's important to you has a real estate related need in the capital region, let's connect. Stephen at sjlincoln.com. That is my email address, goes directly to me. Or you can visit sjlincoln.com/book a call. And on there, you're able to schedule a phone or a Zoom conversation with myself. Again, that's going to be Stephen at sjlincoln.com. And that's Stephen with a V, Stephen at sjlincoln.com. And we can communicate via email or visit sjlincoln.com/book a call. And I'd be happy to jump on a phone or a Zoom conversation with you and discuss what your housing needs are. Again, Stephen at sjlincoln.com, sjlincoln.com/book a call. Let's get back to the show. We'll go ahead and wrap up today with something we haven't done in a few episodes, and that's reviewing what the current housing market looks like. And we're going to view this from a local standpoint here in the capital region, but also from a national picture as well. In October of 2023, which is going to represent the most recent data set available to us, the median sale price in the United States was $392,000 with 3.6 months of inventory. As we've touched on in previous episodes, 6 months of available inventory is typically viewed as a healthy market. So 3.6 would view to sellers still having buyers. This would be considered a seller's market. Here in the capital region, median sale price of $295,000. This marks a 7% increase versus properties that sold this time last year. 2.3 months of inventory, so we're even lower in terms of available properties for sale compared to nationally. And this represents an 11% drop-off compared to 2022. From an affordability standpoint, interest rates have retreated 50 basis points or so within the past 2 weeks. Now, if you were borrowing $250,000, that's going to equate to a $100 per month lower mortgage payment. What does the future hold? From an interest rate perspective, there's a bit more clarity. The unemployment rate has been increasing. Consumer spending has started to slow. The rate at which inflation is rising is coming down. So the incentive for the Fed to push ahead with another interest rate hike doesn't appear to be there. Now, CME Group has a fun tool. They call it the Fed Watch tool. You can view what professional interest rate traders, and yes, that's actually a thing, what they expect to have happen. 95% of them say no change at December's meeting, with a 78% chance of a decrease, which would be interest rate easing come May. So they're betting on middle of 2024, we're going to see rates start to come down. Not in a meaningful way, but I think the big takeaway here is that from a professional trader standpoint, they aren't expecting the Fed funds rate to continue to rise in a meaningful way. We have mentioned in previous episodes that the Fed funds rate does not dictate mortgage rates. However, it's something. Now, home prices is going to be a bit foggier than interest rates. The most surprising outcome, given the four options, which would be slight increase, slight decrease, major decrease, I'd be very surprised to see home prices skyrocket higher from here. At some point, your budget has to tap out, and with wages starting to flatten out, call it a year or so ago, salary increases were 5% a year, 6%. We've seen that be trimmed. Now we're actually seeing companies lay off in significant numbers. So, at FHA, let's say, says your housing payment can't be more than 31% of your gross income. That's not a recommendation. That's a hard cap. So even if you want to spend more, at some point, the lenders are going to step in and say, enough's enough. So here in the capital region, the market I'm going to be most familiar with, The purchase price perhaps is a bit higher maybe this time next year, and the rate in which you finance the purchase likely won't be significantly different, maybe a touch lower. But obviously, with financial markets, things are very dynamic. So we're also always monitoring changes. We're going to be viewing the Fed's minutes. They have a meeting coming up in a few days. And obviously monitoring unemployment data, that's going to be meaningful as well. So that's, kind of where my head is at right now. But obviously I would encourage you to subscribe to this so you get to get my most up-to-date comments. But as of right now, again, I'm expecting maybe slightly lower financing costs next year with home prices maybe being a touch higher. But we'll see. That's going to be it for today. Hopefully you got something out of this. If you or a friend or family member has a real estate related need here in the capital region, let's connect. Stephen at sjlincoln.com. That's my email address. Please reach out to me. Or sjlincoln.com/book a call. We're also pretty active on a lot of the social channels. If you're going to pick one, I would encourage you to follow us on Instagram. That's the most active channel, and you can always DM me. I would love questions for the podcast. I love getting those. So SJ Lincoln Realty on Instagram, Facebook. Of course, always feel free to follow us on YouTube as well. But again, if you want to connect with me, the best ways to do so are Stephen at sjlincoln.com. That's my email, sjlincoln.com/book a call. That's the website. SJ Lincoln Realty. That's the social handles. Thanks for watching. We'll talk again soon.